I wanted to make sure that this was the only thing that y'all saw as I did this commentary when it comes to this video, because I thought it was very telling that this is the first big statement that's coming from the article that I'm about to read from. But the name of the article, and it's coming from the Washington Post, is called "Democrats Worry Their Most Loyal Voters Won't Turn Out for Biden in 2024. And if you're subscribed to Phil's channel, I believe he did do a video about this where he was talking about the black men was worried. I mean, not the black men was worried, but that the Democrats were worried that black men wouldn't support them. My thing is this: when have y'all reached out to black men as far as support goes? Y'all always say we're going to go to the backbone of the community or the backbone of the Democratic Party, which was always black women. But now it seems like they're even more shaken. Or are they? Because let's be real here. They've made this kind of comment before in the past. This is nothing new to us when they talk about, oh, we need to worry because they're not supporting us, or we need to go and try to get them. But the thing is, y'all don't do anything for us. And hopefully black people actually take heed to this and don't do the vote blue no matter who thing, like a lot of us have been doing for decades at this point. Let's actually show them that we mean business. Of course, I'm not supporting them. I don't support either party. I only support those who meet the needs that I want to be met. No more, no less. But with that being said, let's go ahead and see what this article is talking about. Democrats are worried about a potential drop next year in turnout among black voters, the party's most loyal constituency, who played a consequential role in delivering the White House to President Biden in 2020 and will be crucial in his bid for re-election. And see, you got to really pay attention, because it's it's like a dog whistle, and they're trying to make it seem like it's a pity party thing. Like if we don't do something or we don't do this, then something is wrong with us. Remember, Joe Biden is the same one that said, if you don't vote for him, you're not black. I'm like, if black people didn't see the insult in that, y'all still went out and vote for him, y'all are crazy. You only had to tell me something like that one time and that's it. Their concern stems from a 10 percentage point decline in black voter turnout in last year's midterm compared with 2018, a bigger drop than among any other racial or ethnic group, according to a Washington Post analysis of the Census Bureau's turnout survey. Such warning signals were initially papered over by the other Democratic successes in 2022. The party picked up a U.S. Senate seat in Pennsylvania. Senator Raphael Warnock won re-election in Georgia, and anticipated losses in the House were minimal. But in key states like Georgia, the center of Democrats' plans to mobilize black voters in large margins for Biden in 2024. Turnout in last year's midterm was much lower among younger and male black voters, according to internal party analysis. I think that's very important, because they love to say how their numbers are increasing, but when you really dig to the surface, it's not there. So they said their lowest margins were younger voters. They didn't specify what gender, so that we can just say younger men and women, or young, I guess you could say early teens, maybe first time voters, or early 20s, somewhere in that range. And then it said also male black voters, and that's pretty much and I wish they would specify age. I'm going to only assume, because they didn't put an age, I'm only going to assume maybe those who are maybe 30 and up, somewhere like in my demographic and older. That's what I'm going to assume. The drop in black turnout has become a focus for Democratic leaders as the party reorients to next year's presidential contest. Biden's election in 2020 hinged on narrow victories in states like Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that former President Donald Trump had won in 2016. Democratic activists are cautioning that the party can't afford to let support from black voters slip. Well, if y'all actually did something for black people, then you wouldn't have to worry about a slip. Just saying, if you just get out there and vote, then that's it. Just vote because of a boogeyman on the other side. There's a boogeyman in every party, to be quite honest. There's a boogeyman in the White House right now. One of the biggest boogeyman that black people as a collective had to deal with for many decades. Let's talk about it. W. Mondale Robinson, founder of the Black Male Voter Project, shared a dire assessment of Democrats' potential turnout problems with black men. In many of the battleground states, he said many black men are sporadic and non-voters, meaning they are registered but have voted in one or none of the past 3 presidential elections. Robinson said Democrats spend too much time focusing on converting conservative-leaning white women in the suburbs who they see as swing voters. Instead, he said they should focus more on turning out black men, viewing them as swing voters who are debating whether to vote or stay home. The Democratic Party has been failing us epically at reaching this demographic of black men, and that's sad to say, Robinson said. Black men are your second most stable base overwhelmingly, and yet you can't reach them in a way that makes your work easier. And the thing is, let's be real here, when they're talking about black voter support is slipping, they're talking about black women. They know if they lose that black female vote overwhelmingly, they will probably be out of a lot of political spaces for years to come. That's why they keep trying to replace all of us with that immigrant vote. I just put it like that, that immigrant, that south of the Borderian vote. See, I think this is a way of them trying to get back at us. Now, I might be reaching when I say this, but we often say, why do they keep putting or letting all these south of the Borderians come here? And when you look at even more recently how in Chicago, I believe, or in Illinois, they're allowing them to become cops, and they're illegal, they're not documented immigrants. Look at where they're placing people at. Look at what they're trying to do. Like, it's a replacement all the way around, even down to voting support. And I bet you this is a way of them saying, oh, we're going to get back at them because they didn't support us, which, if that was indeed the case, which they'll never say out loud, that is some petty BS. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was indeed the case. Because we didn't support a party that doesn't support us, we're going to find people to replace us so we can do the same thing to them that we've been doing to you. But you know what? We might actually do something for them because we tend to like them a little bit more than you. Biden's political team says it has received the message and is taking action, especially among younger black men. We have to meet them where they are, and we have to show them why the political process matters and what we have accomplished that benefits them, said Cedric L. Richmond, a former Biden advisor who is now a senior advisor at the Democratic National Committee. He said there will be a clear focus on making black voters aware of how they benefited from Biden's administration policies, learning from the errors of past Democratic efforts that fell short. That's probably going to be a very short list. I'm going to be honest with you. That is going to be a very short list. And the thing is, it's too late. In my honest opinion, if you was going to do all of this, you should have done this years ago. Even before Biden became the thought of being president. Even before then. Many of us, see, here's the thing. They bank that we don't know how the political process works. They think we're dumb. Really, they think that all of us are politically inept. I'm not the most politically savvy person, but I do know some things. And if there's some things that I don't know, I know who I could reach out to that could be of some assistance with that. But again, a lot of them think that we're stupid. We will not make the mistake that others made of not drawing all the connections, he said. Black voter advocates say the challenge is particularly acute among black men, many of whom say they feel alienated from the political process and were hurt by policies pushed by both parties that led to increased incarceration and a decline in manufacturing jobs decades ago. Many say their lives haven't improved regardless of which party was in power and are dispirited after the country elected Trump. Life was upended by a global pandemic and violence worsened in urban areas. Many Democrats interviewed said they were less worried about black women, whose voting enthusiasm has historically been more robust than that of black men. And see, that lies in the issue, because what you did is, instead of worried about the collective of black men and women, you prioritize black women a lot because they went out and voted for you even against their own interests, and you put all your focus on them, completely, like the article states, alienating black men. And black men heard it. And they took it and ran with it and ran in another direction. Where they landed, it's really on them. But you can't get upset if that's what you delivered, which was nothing, to be quite honest. And I think, like I said, again, what they're worried about is black women doing the same thing. Black women were a huge factor in Biden's 2020 victory. Advocates expect that trend to continue, particularly with Vice President Harris on the ticket and the appointment of Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who both made history as the first And this is what the article says. Black women in their roles. See, that's another thing when it comes to Kamala the Chameleon. It's like she's black one day, then Jamaican another, then she's Hindu, and then she's Indian, then she's this, and then she's that. And that's the labels that they give her. Like, that's why I call her Kamala the Chameleon. They don't know how to properly label this woman. And then you got Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is a woman in her 40s who doesn't know what a woman is when she was asked. Or maybe she did, but she gave this very off the wall, politically correct response that made no sense. So they gave bad examples. And then on top of that, when we think about Kamala Harris and her history out there in California, especially with black men, do you really think black men would support her? Most likely not. And then they're using this as a thing of, well, we got Kamala Harris and we got Ketanji Brown Jackson. So yeah, you know, we have some representation. If those two are representation, I would rather go through under or not represented at all. Terrence Woodbury, chief executive of HIT Strategies, a polling firm focused on young, non-white voters, has been shopping around a PowerPoint presentation to liberal groups warning of the need to act soon to convince black voters that they have benefited from Biden's time in office. Now, peep that. This person says that they are sending out shopping around a PowerPoint to liberal groups to warn them, to say that they need to act soon to convince black voters that they benefited from Biden in office. In other words, we have to convince them that Biden actually did something when he really did nothing. We've seen what he's done for the academy. We've seen what he's done for the south of the borders of the illegal immigrants. We've seen what he's done for Ukraine, a nation that's millions of miles away in another country, across the pond, in another time zone. Billions sent over there, which seems to be like every other week. I don't think I can go a month without at least 2 times hearing about Biden and administration sending over millions, if not billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight a war that they're losing. I told people Ukraine has literally become the empress of the welfare empress of the world. But you want us to sit here and expect us to be convinced that we are benefiting from this man in office. Part of the problem, he argues, is that the party's focus on Trump and Republican extremism is less likely to motivate younger black men than arguments focused on policy benefits. The messaging, he has argued, must focus on how black communities have benefited from specific policies. Now, that part about their focusing on Trump and the Republican Party is actually true, and especially when it comes to one of those shills that I can't stand the most out of all of them for me is Joe Madison. Every single day, or whenever he has his show, just like, I know this may be a hard ask of me, but one day just happened to listen into his radio show for like maybe a week, if you can stomach it. That dude cannot go a day without bringing up Trump's name in something, and then turns right around and tells black people that we just need to go vote. He does it. Joy Saturn Rings Around the Neck does it. When Tiffany Cross was on the air, Big Sister Loudmouth, she used to do it. Jonathan Capehart, he does it. Roly Poly, he does it. Just shut up and go vote. Much like what Laura Ingraham told LeBron James when she said shut up and dribble, they tell us to go shut up and vote. And if we have a rebuttal, then somehow we're stupid. We're somehow inept. We're dumb. That's your shill right there. To be honest, if they lose, and when I say they, I'm talking about the Democrats lose, then those shills lose. So they have to keep up appearances even though they're speaking out the side of their ass all the time, when it comes to, especially when it comes to this. We know their game. That's why they don't like us over here at the New Black Media. I know that they watch our stuff because some of them try to use our talking points and even bastardize that and sound foolish. Look at Roly Poly, or as I call him, the wet yam, Roly Wet Yam Martin. His own polling has shown that voters believe that their vote doesn't matter is the greatest barrier to voting among black Americans. A Washington Post Ipsos poll of Black Americans in May found a tepid reaction to Biden's re-election. Just 17% said they would be enthusiastic if he wins another term. 48% said they'd be satisfied but not enthusiastic. 25% said they'd be dissatisfied but not angry. And 8% said they'd be angry about another Biden term. The poll also found that nearly 8 in 10 Black Americans say they would not consider voting for Trump over Biden, and that 54% would be angry if Trump was to become president again. Brittany Smith, the executive director of the Philadelphia-based Black Leadership PAC, which is working to turn out Black voters, says she has noticed a change in how Black people respond to her get out the vote efforts in recent years. In the past, she simply needed to remind people of where and when to vote. Now, she said, many express a cynicism about politics that requires a deeper level of persuasion. That's not a night I don't go to sleep thinking about what turnout will look like in 2024. Basically, she had it easy. It was easy street in the first couple of years because it was easy to just say go out and vote and Black people would just do it. But now that Black people are really questioning the voting process and the political process and how everything works, now they actually have to do some leg work. See, it's not as easy anymore. And I'm actually glad that it's not. We're actually making them work, as for what Professor Black Chew says, for their daily bread. No longer is this just going to be, this is the platter just going to be put right in front of you. You can just grab what you want from. No, you're going to have to actually work for it. See, I think the talks of reparations really put a wrench in their system, because it's not a here today, gone tomorrow discussion. It's a here today, still here today, and it's going to stay here day after day until it comes to a resolution that we want. And they see that it's not going anywhere. So now it's really playing on their head, on their mind, to the point where it's like, I don't know what to do. Do I just like toss in the towel and keep it moving? Or do I continue to say, just go out and vote? Many of them are going to do the latter because they need something to do. When you think about election cycle to election cycle, Black voters have been telling us for a long time what matters. They want to put food on the table, a roof over their heads, send kids to good schools, live in neighborhoods that are safe. I don't think the issues are new. It's the way we talk about them and the way we is centering the voice of the people who live in these communities. Some Republicans say they see an opportunity to siphon off some of those disenchanted Black voters in next year's presidential election with messaging on some key issues. What key issues is what I'd like to know. We know which one is at the top of our list. And to be honest, they ain't doing it either. And that's another thing. You have a lot of people who are on the so-called right that says, oh, you know, the Democratic Party, they're about to do this and do that. No, they're not about to do this and they're not about to do that. That just shows you how brain dead you are. Jay Williams, a longtime GOP strategist in Georgia and founder of Stone Ridge Group, a Republican firm, said school choice and transgender and LGBTQ plus issues, especially as they relate to children in schools, could harm Democrats among their reliable base. My guess is Democrats for the foreseeable future will continue to do well with Black voters, but I think there's some cultural issues that don't typically resonate with the Black community as a whole, and frankly, a lot of minority communities, Williams said. Republicans will be able to peel some folks off based on that. Depending on the area, it could be a real wedge issue for us. Williams acknowledged any growth in support among Black voters could be harder for the GOP if Trump is the nominee, and there will be many other groups, including suburban white women, that the party will have to worry about in that case. He added that he expects Republicans to have a better return on investment with other minority voting blocs such as Latinos and Asian Americans, because I don't think they're as in lockstep with the Democrats as the Black voter bloc is. Meanwhile, Democrats say they are significantly more worried that Black voters will sit it out rather than defect to the Republicans. Sharif Street, a Pennsylvania state senator and the chairman of the state Democratic Party, said it's incumbent on the party to give people not just something to vote against like Trump, but something to vote for. Ultimately, the Democratic Party is in the right place substantively on all of these issues, he said, but we've got to understand that people don't just know that. We have to message to people so that they know where we are, and being better than the Republicans is not always enough to get people motivated to vote. In Detroit, liberal organizers targeting Black turnout have made education about how politics work a centerpiece of their pitch, along with concrete examples of policies that have benefited people from state and federal legislation. There is a slow leaking of black men from the base because the issues that they care about aren't being addressed, said Brandon Snyder, executive director of Detroit Action, whose organizers tell people the exercise is more like writing a Yelp review to spur change. We have politics that were created by both Democrats and Republicans that don't get to the heart of what our community cares about. But Malcolm Kenyatta, a black Pennsylvania state representative who was an official surrogate for the Biden re-election campaign, said that black voters will come out for Biden next year if Democrats can articulate Biden's successes. Successes among who? I just named 3 things in this video that he's done for other groups that was not for black people. It was actually working against black people, and honestly, it was working against the betterment of the establishment as a whole. But since we're talking about black people, all of it works against us, especially that immigration issue. This is like being married. You have to spend just as much time, maybe even more time, on the people who show up for you every time as you do for the people who don't. What black folks care about is what everybody cares about: to be able to take care of their community, to be able to live in a community that is safe. If the president is able to do what he is doing now, which is tout his record, I think we are going to be fine. Think again. Think again. Many advocates say that work needs to start early and be consistent. Cliff Albright, co-founder and executive director of the Black Votes Matter, said the resources needed to successfully mobilize black voters and fight over voter suppression in key states were too little and came too late in 2022. He pointed to places like North Carolina and Wisconsin, which had black Democratic Senate candidates, but said the party didn't prioritize investments there. And there you go. That statement right there. And I said that earlier. It's too late. It is way too late in the game to try to prioritize black people when you've completely shunned them. You've already shown your hand. There's nothing you can do between now and November of next year that's going to change what has been going on for at least the last few decades. It's nothing that you can do at this point. Is one thing you can do, but we know you're not going to do it because you fought us with that. Everybody knows there's no path, whether it's President Biden or any other Democrat, federal or state. There's no path to win that does not involve massive turnout from black voters. But they can't just think that it's just going to happen on its own. They've got to invest in making that happen. It's a message also stressed by Mandela Barnes, the first black lieutenant governor in Wisconsin who ran for the Senate in 2022 and lost by only 26,000 votes, much of which could be attributed to depressed turnout in the heavily black city of Milwaukee. Barnes is president of Power to the Polls Wisconsin, a new organization dedicated to working year-round to boost engagement and turnout among black voters in the state. He's also trying to support diverse candidates who might be overlooked by the national Democratic establishment. In a swing state like Wisconsin, we could be very well by the tipping point. If we show up, we win. This country and that power is in the hands of black voters, and we have to take that power seriously. Listen, they can say all of that, but really at the end of the day, like I've said before, it's way too late in the game for them to try to really change anything. They do this every election cycle. They put out this call to black people like we're supposed to just wave our hands like that, and unfortunately some do, and we still get nothing. It works against us. Let's only hope that in 2024 we as a collective develop some goddamn common sense when it comes to this thing and show them that we mean business. Then and only then they may actually hear us. But then again, like I said, it's already too late. By that time, if they're not in a position to do it, then it'll never happen. You did all this stuff for all these other groups of people, and then when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, y'all say that black voter support is going down. Did you think it was going to go up or stay the same? But like I said, we'll see. Come November of 2024, we shall see. This election cycle, to be honest, is one that should be looked at very closely with a very good eye by black people as a whole. I know I'm going to try my best to keep my eye on this. Like I said, I'm no political expert whatsoever, but if there is some political expertise that I need, I know who to reach out to that could better cater to my level of knowledge when it comes to politics. But like I said, we'll see. But like I said, black people as a collective, this is on us. We literally have decisions to make as it pertains to everything that I just read right here. But we know what they're doing. They do this every election cycle. They always put out articles and statements like this every single time. They did it in 2020. They did it. They're doing it now. And they're going to do it again 4 years from now. Well, from 4 years from next year in 2020 or 2027, they're going to do it again. And again and again. They do it all the time. They don't fool me, and they should not fool you.
And you mentioned Cornel West, who by any measure is a pretty fringe candidate. But we all remember Jill Stein in 2016. If West even pulls off a sliver of voters, black voters in particular, that could be the difference in some of these states. So tell us, what's the Biden campaigns? Are they aware of this potential issue? And what's their plan to try to make sure they keep those voters in line?
Certainly strategists have raised concerns about third-party candidates, not just Cornel West, but also this no labels candidates that we're hearing about. But I think the thing that the Biden world is banking on is Donald Trump. Their hope is that if he is in fact the nominee, that will galvanize people in the same way that it did in 2020. There was voters who purely cast a vote against Donald Trump, and they're hoping that threats to democracy and him being on the ballot again will have the same effect that it did then.
Yeah, that certainly is something in some ways that the White House is counting on. Dynamics would change if the Republicans ended up with a candidate that wasn't Donald Trump, but polls suggest there's not really any sign of that.
So y'all just heard that part right there. And this is why I'm glad sometimes when I don't rush to upload videos, because you never know what else can come out. Now, this part right here came out shortly after the article that I just read to you, just maybe a couple days later. Interesting how in that article, they're literally talking about, oh, what we need to do to galvanize the black vote, especially with black men, all this, that, and the third. And then you hear these two right here. But we're going to start with this guy right here. This guy literally said out of his mouth, what do we have to do, or what do they have to do in order to keep these voters in line? That was one of the things that stuck out to me in its entirety of this whole video that only lasted a second over a minute. Keep those voters in line. They never say that to any other group. They never say it to white people. They don't say it to Asians. They don't say it to South of the Bordarians or any other group that votes in any type of election, local, state, federal, national, whatever. Only us. Keep them in line. And we know what that sounds like. We know exactly what that sounds like. Now that we took care of what, he said, or acknowledge what he said, let's acknowledge what she said. She's basically saying we're literally banking or hoping that Donald Trump gets on the ticket. That way people can vote against him. Do y'all literally hear what they're saying? Like, that's actually a very interesting risk that they're taking, that they think a lot of black people are not going to vote for Donald Trump. Did they not see that exit poll when he ran against Joe Biden back in 2020? I don't think they did. What makes them think that some black people won't go out and probably in droves and vote for Donald Trump, since if there's a chance that he does end up on the ticket? They're banking that he gets on the ticket so they can fearmonger black people again in order to vote against him and get Joe Biden reelected. That's literally, in so many words, what she said. But again, these are the same people that say we need to galvanize the black vote. This is their way of galvanizing. And people wonder why I always tell you that they are on two wings of the same bird. What you just heard right here is a prime example of that.